These are the moments when Joe Rogan challenged woke guests on his show. In one of his videos includes a guest, Adam Conover, who found himself at odds with Joe on the topic of trans competitors. The discussion began with Joe asking Adam about his views on trans athletes. Adam expressed that he saw no issue with trans individuals competing in sports.
Sports with trans athletes, that is a sporting world that I'm more interested in.
Joe countered by arguing it's unfair for a biological woman to compete against a biological man.
For a woman, and you don't take any extra hormones or male hormones, you're not taking steroids or any sort of performance-enhancing drugs, but then someone comes along that was a man for 30 years and decides they're going to be a woman, and this has happened, and literally transitioned a few months ago, and competes as a woman and destroys records and dominates you in that sport. It's not fair. It's as much cheating as taking steroids.
Adam responded by claiming there's no such thing as a level playing field in sports.
I disagree, and
What do you disagree about?
I've already, well, I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfectly level playing field. I think we decide what kind of playing field we want to have.
Sure, but we do make the distinction where we don't allow men to compete in women's divisions.
And I think that distinction may be breaking down a bit.
While Adam emphasized breaking down traditional gender norms, Joe posed a tough question. Should males be allowed to compete in women's weightlifting?
So you think that males should be able to compete in the women's division of weightlifting?
No, I don't necessarily.
But they can if they transition.
Joe further pointed out that men can transition and compete in women's sports. Adam then shifted the conversation, bringing up the idea that when children transition as young as 7,
you're seeing folks transition much earlier age. And so if someone is transitioning from the age of 7 years old, right? Working with those hormones, from that age, right? They're not going to have, their body situation is going to be very different than the one that you postulate.
The biological differences might change. Joe challenged this, questioning whether a 7-year-old is capable of understanding their identity.
There's no reason to give kids hormones, and there's no reason to decide before a person's frontal lobe is completely fully developed, which doesn't even take place till they're 25. You're going to let them decide what sex they're going to be for the rest of their life?
Adam attempted to defend his position by sharing a story about a friend with a trans child, suggesting that feeling like a girl naturally leads to the need for hormone treatments.
I have a friend who has a trans kid. He's explained that my child from a very young age consistently said, I am a girl, and has never contradicted themselves, never changed their mind. And so the humane thing and the thing that he felt was good to do as a parent was to embrace that choice on his child's part, right?
Embrace that choice meaning hormonally.
I shouldn't even phrase it as a choice, like embrace that identity. Yeah.
Okay, but if that's who they are, if they think that they're a girl, why do you have to give them hormones?
Joe disagreed, expressing skepticism about such decisions being made at a young age.
Because, I'm sorry, can you expand on the question?
It's a simple question. If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones. Mm-hmm. If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. You don't have, why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
Unlike the next guest, Pete Dominic, who confidently suggested that the United States Constitution should be rewritten.
The Constitution is also silly. Let's remake everything. Have a serious conversation about what kind of guns and bullets people can have. There's so much better that we can do.
Pete has good intentions and aims to address gun violence in America. Studies consistently show that confiscating them all is nearly impossible. Joe Rogan argues that it simply can't be done.
There's so many guns, you're not getting them all. It's not possible.
That's the most important point. There's already 330. There's more guns than there are people, so what do? I think you buy as many as you can back for sure. You spend a whole bunch of taxpayer money.
If you wanted to do that without changing the Second Amendment, you just have a buyback where you just offer people the opportunity to make some money by giving their guns up.
Whereas Pete supports the idea of government buybacks. At this point, Pete interrupts Joe's reasoning, shifting the argument by claiming that the Second Amendment has been misinterpreted.
Second Amendment has been interpreted wrong by the Supreme Court.
We need to talk about the Second Amendment. I mean, it's a big conversation.
No, because people can have guns. You can have guns. Everybody has a right to have guns. You just can't have these guns.
While Pete becomes visibly frustrated, Joe stays calm and composed. Pete continues to interrupt, shift the argument, and contradict himself repeatedly, initially blaming the problem on guns and bullets.
It is definitely the guns and the bullets in them.
Well, the main issue is the person that's capable of shooting people with the guns and the bullets.
No, it's the guns and the bullets.
The guns and the bullet are inanimate objects. Without a person pulling the trigger, we're talking nonsense here.
Then pivoting to say it's a healthcare issue just moments later.
The Second Amendment to me is, it's just your interpretation. Fine, whatever your interpretation is fine.
That's what's interesting.
But if
about
there's
it
a human
is
impact, it's a healthcare issue, it's so extreme. It's really, if you want to know the answer to healthcare issues, you should talk to public health experts.
When Joe challenges Pete to clarify his point, Pete struggles to provide a coherent answer, instead rambling and talking in circles as he had done throughout the segment.
On what research? On what?
Well, they don't have enough
murderers?
research on. They don't have enough research on gun violence.
Well, what
unfortunately,
are you talking about then?
I'm talking about if you want to know the solutions for what is impacting and creating death by any measure, accidental death.
Right, but we're talking about gun violence, right?
Right.
What healthcare professionals have the solutions to gun violence?
The debate was clearly one-sided, with Joe Rogan destroying Pete, leaving him struggling to recover. I can't say the same about our next guest, Flint Dibble. There was a discussion going on over published articles claiming Graham was a racist and a white supremacist.
Ask is just a Google search. Archaeologist Flint Dibble says Hancock's claims reinforce white supremacist ideas, stripping indigenous people of their rich heritage, and instead giving credit to aliens or white people. Actually, I've never...
Did you really say that?
When Joe Rogan tries to confirm if Flint actually made these claims, Flint denies
No, I said that this idea of Atlantis, the way it goes back 200 years, it has been used for those reasons.
So are you saying your quote is incorrect?
I think that it's editing me out of context, Graham. I've never called you a white supremacist or a racist.
Flint argues that he only labels the sources Graham uses as racist and not Graham himself, but Joe disagrees. Joe believes that the hidden agenda behind associating Graham with these claims is to get him canceled.
This quote here: reinforce white supremacist ideas, stripping indigenous people with a rich heritage, and instead giving credit to aliens or white people. None of those things are true.
I know, Graham doesn't even talk about aliens.
Right, but
and
what,
so
did
that's
you
why
say that?
I said that not in specific relation to Hancock's claims, but in specific relation to this narrative of Atlantis that has gone back.
Flint adamantly denies these claims, but what he didn't know is that Graham came with more evidence.
Dibble, here's the Guardian. So they're misquoting you, are they? As Dibble states, such claims reinforce white supremacist ideas. They strip indigenous people of their rich heritage and instead give credit to aliens or white people. Why didn't you get the Guardian to put that right?
When Flint felt the pressure, he became unable to give a clear answer and started dodging the questions.
I don't.
Did you actually say that, though?
I did not say that Graham reinforces white supremacist ideas. As I've said,
So this quote is not real?
They stripped the stories of Atlantis? Yes. Right?
So the quote reinforce white supremacist ideas, that's not yours.
No, that's not a quote. It's not in quotation.
Right, it was in the other article. It's a quote.
This is your own article, Flint. Here you are. I'm quoting from, that's a quote from your article published in The Conversation. This sort of race science is outdated and long since debunked, especially given the strong links between Atlantis and Aryans proposed by several Nazi archaeologists. You are associating me with this, and you are attempting to get me
I'm asking
cancelled
you to
effectively.
distance yourself from that. Is
But
actually what I'm trying to do.
But that's not what you're doing.
Flint continues to dodge for the rest of the 4-hour podcast, never owning up to his wrongdoing, just like CNN, who claimed that Joe Rogan was taking horse dewormer and endangering the population.
Breaking news this evening, Joe Rogan, an extremely popular podcaster, announced on social media today that he has COVID. In his statement on social media, Rogan said he has taken several therapeutics to recover.
Turns out I got COVID.
CNN even went as far as to edit Joe Rogan's face to make him look more sick.
So we immediately threw the kitchen sink at it. All kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, Z-Pak.
CNN claims that the use of these drugs is not clinically backed.
Those drugs he mentioned, ivermectin, is something more often used to deworm horses.
But Joe got these meds prescribed by a doctor and recovered in just 4 days. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
I have to sue CNN. CNN is saying I'm taking horse dewormer.
Yeah, what? So
They must know that that's a lie.
there's a lot of people saying it.
Right, I literally got it from a doctor.
After talking about where he got it, he puts the final nail in the coffin for CNN.
This is the grand conspiracy, right? The grand conspiracy is the pharmaceutical companies are all in cahoots to try to make anybody who takes this stuff look crazy. But what's crazy is look how better I got.
Yeah.
I got better pretty quick, bitch.
Let's go to like
With CNN going as far as editing footage of Joe to make him look incredibly sick, while also making several false claims, it's safe to say that Joe took the dub in the end.